first and foremost, I just really want to thank everyone for being here. It's so real. My dad loved you guys, like just like you love him, and that's why you're here. We're so grateful for you guys celebrating with us, but like it really did go both ways. Like I could look at every single person here and think of like just really beautiful stories, and so I really thank you for celebrating with us today. I know how lucky I am to have a dad that like really showed me what love is, in a way that's like bigger than this world. And you know, you go through stuff, right? And it's like, no matter what you go through, no matter what happens, he was the most positive person. And like, he just like, no matter what, like whether it was, you know, you're studying hard or you're trying to do something, you're trying to achieve something, or when you're sick, or just whatever it is, things will get better. And he's like, you just have to keep the hope alive. And like, he lived that. He just always pushed to get better and make things better and believe things would get better, and they did get better. And so he just really, like, it was his life mantra was keep the hope alive, and he just brought positivity, you know, even in his later years when he was sick, and he just would keep pushing, and he kept it so positive. And like everything is like keep the hope alive, and we actually as a token for everyone, we printed some Keep the Hope Alive t-shirts. so on your way out, take one, please. They arrived at 1:15 today, so someone else will live another day. But yeah, so that's like the one thing I want to make sure yeah, we're sad, right? This sucks. But like, really just keep the hope alive, everything. Like, that's what we're doing, and that's how I want to live, and that's how he would want all of us to live. When my dad first had the stroke, 2007, I was in California, and I got on a plane, and this was when planes didn't have Wi-Fi. There was like one screen every 4 rows, and everyone just looked at that one screen. And I was like, well, let me just jot down some notes and like think, because I didn't know what it was gonna land to. So I was like, all right, and the only 3 things I wrote were, he loved me so much, he taught me so much, and he gave me so much. He was like so kind. And like 14 years later, he loved me so much more, he taught me so much more, and like he gave me so much more. And I'm so grateful for having this like amazing, wonderful person. And I love the stories that we've been all sharing today. One that I almost forgot about, and I'm not angry about, I swear. But the last words that my dad spoke were, I love you. And it's the truth. My brother and I were there, and so was Margaret Scher. But he said it to Margaret. My brother and I were on the other side of the room and looked at each other. Again, I'm not mad. I want to be clear on the sentiment. But like, that's real. Like, that is absolutely so real. So just for funny stories, because gotta lighten it up. My dad used to do this thing that I loved. In Paramus, there was this like street to get onto Route 4 by the Toys R Us that's not there anymore. But like, there was this like windy road, and we would do shake and bake, where he would like swing the car this way, that way, and like definitely not safe. I mean, like, call Dyfus, but like, and we would like fling from one side, fling from the other. But like, in the smallest moments of like running an errand, we were having the times of our lives, and like, that was our life, like winning. He used to always tell us, like, you know, relax, tranquita. And so we thought this was an Arabic word, tranquita, right? So we're Egyptian. Right? So, you know, in all the words that I know, right? So we go in with this, and I'm like talking to my cousins. We're like, oh, tranquita. And they're like, what is that word? I was like, you know, because I know, tranquita. And they're like, say it slower, right? So, also I'm 30 35. This is like, I'm 35. Full 35. I come back and I piece it together, and it was tranquila. And he sort of like made Arabic. So tranquila will always be in my dialects. Please don't make the same mistakes. And just along the terms of like, all the things he taught us, all the things we got to do and live. But he was always teaching us, and so like I remember as kids, he would like not just tell you the answer, but teach you the answer. And every once in a while, he'd be like, "Why don't you look it up in the encyclopedia? You could really learn it." It wasn't until I was like much older that meant he didn't know, and I had to go look up the answer myself. But again, 35-year-old Maha figuring things out. But just, I didn't realize, again, he just taught us so much, and I'm so grateful for all the great memories that I do have. And I just really want everyone to keep the positivity that he had. I know today is sad in a lot of ways, but if we walk away with something positive, it's about keeping everything positive, and no matter what we're going through, just like really gotta try and keep it up. Keep the hope alive, everyone. Stefan, do you want to say a few words?
Sure. Gosh, I don't even know what to say. No idea. It's a tough act to follow. I kind of view my dad as, I guess like before he got sick and like after he got sick, it was just hard to, it's like a fine line of like two versions. But he was always the same wonderful like man and human being that again like was always so positive. Like he was so sick, but if we were having a bad day, he'd be like, "Come over, let me give you a hug." He was just a strong force. At 5 foot, 5 foot tall, this guy could diffuse any situation. And I remember our car was getting towed on 72nd. The car just wasn't working. And this huge guy comes over and just starts, with the tow truck, starts just shouting at my dad. And just shouting at like the person whose car kind of blocked them in. It was like a whole thing. And again, at 5 foot nothing, this huge tow truck guy just comes over. My dad just starts making him laugh. And like, I just remember being in this like cramped cab with the truck driver, and the two of them don't even know each other, just laughing. I don't know. Another memory that I have of like something that sort of ties back to what I was saying was like, as I say, every opportunity was like something to teach people about. Was like, I remember my dad just he called at like 5:30 or something like that. I was in the house and he was on his way home. He's like, "Hey, I just had an accident at work. I cut my hand. It's pretty bad. I'm going to Engwood Hospital." So he drove himself to Engwood Hospital. I rode my bike, met him in the emergency room. He got there before I did, and I just see himself. I just see him with, like, again, his thumb was like sliced open, and he's like stitching himself. And the resident was just over his head, like, just staring. And he's like telling him, he's like, then you just, he's like teaching him how to like stitch. And the guy's just like, "Thank you," I always liked that. That was just such a, those moments. There's so many of them. I've just been playing soccer. I remember, he would always, be there. Physically, just be at the soccer games cheering us on. But just, also, I don't know. I thought soccer was the most important thing in the world at times. And just whenever we lost a game, I'd take it so hard. And he'd be like, "It's okay, man. Just relax. You did great. You're a great kid. Just keep going." And I remember, just those kinds of things. Just such a great man. I miss him. I miss him already. No. thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. Like my sister said, like this is who he is. You know, like this like network, this fabric, this like composition is like who he is, and like we all knew him, we all loved him, we all smiled with him, and just thank you for making his life, making our lives. Thank you.
Mom, do you want to say a few words?
I'll try. It's hard, but I'll try. I've known Mo all my life. He was my next door neighbor. So, and he was my best friend's older brother. So, since I was born, I know him. And he was the same kind human being that all of you know and love. So we became friends later on in life, and we fell in love and we got engaged. And then he decided, you know, he graduated from veterinary school, but he always loved research. His love was in research. He always thought he can change the world, and he can always find a solution to problems by research. He couldn't get that opportunity or the resources in Egypt. So he decided he will come to United States. And he did, and I had to make a big choice. Do I follow the man I love, or do I stay with my family or move into a whole country that I know nothing about? And I followed my heart. And I followed him a year later, and we lived the American dream. We passed our professional licenses. Both of us went to graduate school at Columbia University. He had his PhD at Columbia University, and he did what he loved. He stayed with his animals, and he stayed with his research, the two things that he loved the most. And we had 3 beautiful children. My daughter Mona, she also went to graduate and undergraduate at Columbia University, and I am so sure she's hanging out with her dad sipping tea. And my middle daughter Ma, she's a vice president of New York Social Network. My son is a very successful architect, and the funny part that after his father retired, Columbia University hired him to be the architect for Columbia University. So he ended up having meetings with all the department heads and all the people that knew his dad. But after his dad is gone, and he realized that how much his dad was loved by people that he really didn't know anything about. And after having the third child, we lived in New York for 9 years, and we decided, you know, we need to have a house. We need a house for 3 children. They need a backyard, and we decided to move in for, you know, area with good schools. So we moved into Tenafly, and we get to meet the beautiful people like Rick and Don Ducasse, the Levines, the Rothensalls, and few others. And we had a great, beautiful, almost 25 years in Tenafly, and that's where our kids grew up, in Tenafly. And we did what we wanted to do. We had a life that we dreamed of. We lived our dream. But we lived it together. And he meant the world to me. And losing him is very hard. It's very hard. But he had a lot to give. He had a lot of love to give. And he loved life. As much as he was sick for the past almost 15 years, he really kept the hope alive, and he lived by it. He fought for his life. But he loved, is anything that's missing today is his animals. I think he would have loved to have all the cages here. And I'll tell you a funny story. And we were young, a veterinarian of his was getting married, so we drove a few hours to a wedding. And So one of the, before the animal caretaker goes home, or whoever working in the office, whoever it is, they call him and just give him a little, feedback report before they go home. We were in a wedding, so he gets a phone call that one of the animals was sick. One of the cats, I believe it was sick. So in our way back, and of course, Colombia was out of the way. But he said, in our way, we'll stop by the office. 10 minutes. His 10 minutes was, leaving work in 10 minutes. That's not happening. It's 2-3 hours. That day, he said, that might be maybe half an hour. Maybe you need to come up. I know half an hour, this is definitely all night. So here I am he's in his suit, I'm in my evening gown and my high heels, and go to the office. Before I know it, can you hold this cat for me? I need to sedate the cat so I can do the test. And okay, I'm holding the cat, we sedate the cat. It took an hour or so to get all kind of tests. All right, we'll do this X-ray and that X-ray, and he sent me somewhere, to get autoclaves. I was an emergency room nurse, an intensive care nurse. I've never seen an autoclave before. I never sterilized equipment. And I tell you, if any of you know what autoclave is and where they sterilize the equipment, it's a scary thing. You want to say that? It's a big metal cylinder with a big door bigger than me. And when he told me how to run he was somewhere else, but I told him how to run this thing. How do you run this thing? He said, just close the door and press this button and that temperature. It made the most horrible noise. I ran out of the room like a scaredy cat. And anyway, before I know it, after all the tests and all of this, he comes back and he said, I have to operate on the cat. I said, this can't wait till morning. He said, no. It's not going to be long. He said, all you have to do is just put this gown on and put this glove on and where you see them, put this hat on. And I said, there must be someone on your payroll that can do this. Can't you call somebody? Didn't somebody call you this morning? Can you call him back? He said, no, he was here all day. He's going to have dinner with his family. I need them tomorrow morning. This is not going to take long. That's how you scrub. Let's do scrub. We scrub. I go in, I never been in an operating room. I found myself in a big operating room with some light and scary thing. And here I am, hand me this and hand me that. And I'm saying, what? And I have my mask, and I really had no interest in knowing what is wrong with this kid. And I just asking, he said, and then before you know it, he loves to teach. He started telling me now, he thought I was one of his interns. He was just telling me, this here I need to do this, and the cat had this. He started explaining everything away. Before you know it, by the time that surgery is done, I was in it. I was an emergency room. I can clean the wound better than him. I can dress it. No, you're not doing this bandage right. And I was sucked into the taking care. And okay, we're done with this. We had to recover the cat. We had to wait for the anesthesia to wait up. We have to make sure that this cat is breathing and doing this. And okay, here another hour. So I wasn't allowed near the cages. I could never get near the cages. He had all these baboons. It was all Shakespearean names. And I see, okay, we're waiting now. We'll have a cup of tea. And I see all these bananas out there. I said, okay, can I have a banana? He said, no. I said, there's tons of them out there. We're here, I'm late, we're hungry, come on. It was his rule. He wrote every policy, and it was his rule, and he bought the policy, it's his policy, he's convinced. He would never break that rule even for himself. He convinced me that the research is going to get ruined if I eat that banana. The person will come in the morning, he think the baboon ate the banana, and now it's going to affect the research. So we stayed hungry, we recovered the banana, we came in almost close to morning. The first thing in the morning, I got up, he woke up, and I was all dressed. He said, well, why are you all dressed up? I said, aren't we going to check on the cat? I need to change the bandage. And I need to make sure that the wound is, let's go. And he said, you really don't have to. I have full staff in the office, you know. It's a Sunday, but he still had people working. But I wasn't the only one that he can convince. You know, he will get the best out of people. Dr. Grundy, I wish he was here with us today. He's my husband's dentist. And his office was next to Columbia, and they were friends too. He invited him one day to lunch, and he said, you know, let's have lunch. I need to discuss something with you. So he calls him in, and he told him, you know, I have a baboon that teeth, I think he has a toothache. He said, Mo, I only seen baboon in the zoo. I don't even know what their teeth look like. But that's him. He will convince you. He will, and you couldn't really say no to Mo. All of you know that you really couldn't say. Even if he comes up with the craziest idea, you couldn't, because he's just so nice. You can't say no to him. So he said, you know, I just, you know, Dr. Grundy was just telling me the story. I said, you know, I'll just pacify. I said, you know, Mo, just let me think about it. So I didn't respond. He said he called him back and he said, you know what? Why don't you come to my office? Let's talk about it. So he takes him to his office and he's trying to show him the baboon now, and before you know it, Dr. Grundy became the baboon dentist. And he said, you know, if anybody came to me and told me I'll give you $1 million to be the baboon dentist, I would say absolutely not, but I'll do it for free for Mo. And Mohammed was loved. Everybody loved him. And you know, when someone leaves work, you know, they leave, they retire or get sick or whatever, they leave their job. You know, you're lucky if you get someone to give you a call after 15 days. You know, after 15 days, people forgot who you are. You know, it might be a nice person who will call you once in a blue moon, but not Mo. Group of wonderful scientists here, top of the line. Every month, you know, led by Harry Shear and Richard and few others, they made sure to contact us. We want to take Mo to lunch in a restaurant.
You know, he always took us to.
It was a big fight.
He would not, you know, if somebody would get their wallet out, he'd be like,
but he will give you the message. It's true. He always had to pay.
Only on his 70th to 75th birthday. That's the only time we were able to pay.
So they made sure every single month they sent an email. We want to take Mo to lunch. Made sure. Harry Shear that sent email every month. They took him to Coogan, and it's a restaurant close to Columbia where they all used to hang out. And actually Coogan has few pictures of my husband all over the restaurant. You know, any restaurants, whom they hang up on the walls, celebrity or VIP players. But Mo made it for few pictures. For few pictures. Anyway, for 15 years while he was out sick, and they made sure to send that email to everyone that worked with them. If you're a job and you know that you get sick, you had a stroke, you know what people do? They will send you a card. They will get everybody to sign in and they will send you a card. Well, Columbia couldn't get a card big enough for Mo when he had the stroke. So what they did, this is the get well card. This is the get well card they sent him. And they signed on the bottom. They couldn't find a bigger card. And they presented him with this when he had the stroke at Kessler in West Orange, where he had his rehab after the stroke. And if you watch the video in the family room, you will see him his picture looking at receiving this. And the truth is, he wasn't surprised. I was shocked. I mean, look at this. Look at this. It's everybody here that knows him. Everybody wanted, they couldn't get a bigger card for him. That's how much he was loved. And he will be missed. He meant the world to me, and I will miss him terribly. But he was the love of my life. And I know You always wanted to keep the hope alive, but right now it seems impossible. But I promise you one thing, I will do my best to keep the hope alive. If anyone would like to have any stories that would like to share with us, then please feel free to share it with us. And we have a video in the family room if you like to watch. And we have some food and some dessert if you can help yourself. And thanks to the Shaker group for saving his life over and over and over. If it wasn't for you guys, Mina, if you didn't wait for me 2 hours one day on a weekend after your office closed to take him, so I don't have to take him to the emergency room, we owe you a lot. You and your dad, the best decision I ever made for his care is to take him to you guys. And we're grateful. You really kept him alive, away from the emergency room. You did your best. We felt we were family. We never, anytime we called for an appointment with a busy practice like yours, anytime we called for an appointment, we got one. We got one. It was never, I had a knee issue with people that I work with. 3 hours I worked with a brace to get an appointment. Okay, so I'm grateful. We're really grateful. My whole family, and I know my husband, he had a, whenever he saw your dad and you and guys, his face lit up. And he really, there was just, keeping the hope alive was literally what he lived by. And he was my inspiration. Anytime I got sick and I looked at him, I said, I shouldn't be complaining. I mean, this man had a smile on his face. He read his New York Times every morning. And you get a bad day, but he really, and this is somebody that didn't know how to sit down. He always, anyone that works for him can tell you, he never really walks, he runs. He really, he was so active, and to be handicapped like this, it was a big change for him, but he adjusted. And he always had a laugh. He always had a smile. He always had a smile. I took him to get his vaccine where I worked, but I stayed on the side. I really didn't want him to get any privilege that, I'm really, so I stayed on the side. Figuring, okay, there was a big line for the vaccine, for his booster, and big line. I said, let me stay in the background. I told my son where to go instead. Sure enough, all he needed is a high five and a big laugh and a smile, and guess what? He didn't have to wait in no line. In time. Wasn't because of me. That's really all he did. And somehow there was a rule that, wheelchairs go first, and they broke they didn't even know he was related to me. But that's who he was. Smile, you'll find yourself doing whatever you can, because he's just a pleasant person. And it will be hard, and I'm admitting it, it's very hard for me right now, but I know that he wants me to move on, and I know he wants our family to move on, and he was lucky. He was very lucky to have the children that we have. No one, I work in a hospital and I see how people are treated. There is no way that these two dedicated children will do what they did. And I thank you very much again for coming in, and your presence here means a lot to us. Means a lot to us. So please, if you have a story to share, and
just wanted to say a few words. My name is Vanessa, I'm Maha's best friend. We've been best friends for 25 years, so I just jotted a few thoughts. So I've known Maha and her family for 25 years now, and I have so many fond memories of your family and your dad, and I know everyone here does, and that's why everyone's here, but I just wanted to take a minute to just talk about you guys as a family and the way you cared for your dad, because I've never seen anything like that. And I know that you guys are sitting here thinking about how blessed and lucky you were to have him and how much he loved you, but I know that he knew every day how blessed and lucky he was to have you guys, and how much you guys loved him, and how much you dedicated to him. And as the head of his family, he instilled that in you and in your family, and you guys are going to carry that on forever. To your grandchildren, to your children, your dad is going to live through generations. And I love you guys so much.
Thank you, Vanessa.
And anything.
Thank you for
You know,
everything
anything.
you've done for us.
Because I know that you guys would do anything for the people you love. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure we've been in violation.
There's no HIPAA with respect to the baboon's health, and they've also all gone to baboon heaven. I'm Richard Fulton. I came to PI in 1992, and I brought 8 baboons. I think it was 8, could have been 6, with me from Johns Hopkins. There hadn't been any baboons or monkeys here for PI for a couple of years, and it was quite a lot of excitement getting them all set up. And as you can hear, we did have a guy with a bad tooth, I can't remember his name now, and a lot of activities that were related to the baboons, and most certainly enjoyed them. We had one, which Jose may remember, named Oliver, the last one on the right. Oliver was a sweetie. Oliver liked to be scratched, but he didn't like to be scratched by everybody. So I'm pretty sure Mo went in to see him almost every day, and Mo scratched because he'd come up to the front like this and get scratched. It was really cute. A lot of the other baboons, they kind of let you maybe touch him a little bit. He really was into it. So Mo really enjoyed Oliver. And one time when they were doing a TB test, Oliver passed away. Now Oliver was in his 20s, so it was not unexpected. But I wasn't there, and I was so glad I wasn't there because I would have cried. And my technician said, poor Mo was crying his eyes out because, oh, Jamel. Jamel will remember Oliver. Oliver was a very important part of our family for maybe 10, 12 years. I don't know how long we had Oliver. I certainly had for maybe 15. So he was very, the attachment he had and care for all of my baboons was really quite appreciative. And we had mentioned earlier about the smaller gentleman, even smaller than me, having an argument with a bigger, quelling an argument from a larger gentleman. So one of our baboons was loose, and I would stay far, far away. It's like, I'm a chicken, I'm not going to go near. But there was Mo, and the cages are big. A baboon cage is about 6 feet tall, about taller than me, and it's wider than me, so it's about 5 by, almost 4.5 by 4.5. And there's Mo pushing this 300-pound cage, where it was running, pushing the cage in to get the baboon to go back in the cage. Because then eventually you put some fruit in the cage, the baboon goes, oh, there's fruit in there, that's better than being out here in the corner. So, but there's this little old Mo pushing this big cage around. And I'm like, I'm looking at the door going, I'm not doing that. So, I mean, he impressed me with his bravery with respect to these, because the largest baboon we had was 68 kilograms. So we had they were quite sizable animals. So he really cared a lot for them. And for that I certainly appreciate it. And the last thing, I will miss his looks, because when he talked to us, whenever we had lunch, and kissing Mo on the head, so that's really kind of like my favorite last memory.
Thank you.
My name is Jose Esmo, and I work for Mo. Actually started working with Dr. Osman, and I actually worked with Dr. Fulton when I was in 1993. I was 19 years old when I first started working for him. Jamel and I started the same year. Actually the same month. So I'm 47 now. But because of him, he actually, there's so many stories as far as Maha called me, she let me know what happened, and I broke down. But you can see that he meant a lot to me. But I remember working with him and knowing that if he brings some, donuts and he brings some coffee, you were gonna work that day. At first, I didn't know. He's like, oh, I'll bring you guys some, some donuts and everything. He said, oh, okay, it's okay, eat. I said, okay, no problem. He said, okay, so you spend another 3 hours there working. But as far as teaching you stuff, he's always taught me, how to do things, and always spent the time to be able to try to get you to understand that you have to learn the idea first. More than anything, I miss him because as more than when I first started working at psych and then I left, and I just wanted to show him that I went on professionally, and he was a big mentor of mine. And I showed you that picture, I'm in the ALAS, which is the American Association for Laboratory Animal Science, and this is the field that we're in. I've been in the field for 29 years. I started with Dr. Fulton and the baboons. I actually worked on the weekends with Dr. Fulton and then filled in during the week. And I left in 2000, but I always used to go back and just to see him, and he'd talk to him, and I would see him at meetings. And I always wanted to make him proud. And one of the things that as far as who was your mentors within the they do a little profile on you. They wanted to know how ELAS, and I said Dr. Osman was one of my mentors, and I always keep saying it. As far as Suli, we've been still in the field, and to this day, where'd you come from, where'd you start, and I always say Dr. Osman. One funny story is when Mona, God bless, we were in front of the office, and Dr. Osman was walking back and forth from Jamel's office, and we're laughing about the Austin Powers, and he's just like go somewhere else. But Maha and I used to see you guys come through, and I used to always see you guys come through. Thank you for inviting us, and it's a pleasure. I've known him for almost 30 years, and he's a big mentor of mine, and my family is your family, and thank you for inviting us and thanking the family.
I'm glad you shared that with us. Thank you.
You meant so much to him. He was so proud of you.
Yeah.
He was so proud
We have
of
a few
you.
pictures of you guys here. You and Peter.
Yeah.
Except Peter now in South America.
So since we're allowed to talk about the baboons, I didn't know this was My dad used to always say, I shouldn't say this. He's like, the baboons listen to me better than you do. They were baboons! I didn't know that was on the table. I didn't know.
So I guess that means I have to talk.
Yeah, Jamel.
Hi, I'm Jamal.
Hi, Shanta. I'm so glad you came.
I had some anxiety getting here. I'm here.
I'm glad you made it.
Hi. So I hate public speaking. I'm Jamal Shabir. I am the bonus office child. My road dog was Mona. Rest her soul. When Mona got in trouble, I got in trouble. I have tons of stories. I started at 20, interviewed for a part-time administrative assistant position, and it took him 2 months to call me back. This is how I got the job. My mom worked in personnel. He bumped into her outside and he said, "Hey, is your daughter still looking for a job?" Is your daughter still looking for a job? She was like, "Yes, she is. Please." And he said, "Tell her she starts tomorrow." I said, "Okay." So for like 10 years, it was 50% time, and half a day, 9 to 12, to come in and do my job. And he'd be like, "You leaving already?" And I'd be like, "I'm done, 50%. I'm in my 20s. This pays my rent. I'm good." Then I would stay because we needed extra time to do stuff. And then we would be talking and doing everything. And, then Maha would hide in my office. We're talking about this 5x5 space. Wasn't that big. If it wasn't Maha, it was Jose. If it wasn't Jose, it was Angel. We started out together. Maybe like 8 years in, it became 80%. So now I'm older, more responsible. I'm like, I'm going to college. I'm like, "Dr. Osman, I need to be full-time or I have to leave." So he's like, "You're not going to leave." No, so I was like, "I'm going to leave." Before I left, I was so kind. I wrote my whole job out. Whole job. Everything I did, top to bottom. He said, okay. He hired Gene Cole to replace me. I went to work for Renee Hinn. But I didn't really work for Renee. I worked for Renee and Dr. Osman. And when I gave Gene the binder, he said, "Come here." I said, "What?" Because, I didn't want to leave him
She's
stuck.
on Zoom though. Be
Oh,
careful.
hi, Gene. But this is, you're going to laugh, right? So he goes, "Come here." I said, "What?" "You never tell anyone what you do here, from A to Z, because it will make you indispensable. Like, we don't need you. You told us your whole job. So I said, do I take pages out from Jean? You know? So Jean comes in and she's helping him, and she's doing the day-to-day, and she's working. And I was gone like a year and a half, and that's when she just said, I can't do this anymore, and you better get Jamel back. So that's how I came back. So but I still work for comparative medicine. This is year 28 for me.
Wow.
And when he left, I was like, oh my God, because I can't work for nobody else. I mean, like, who's gonna be as good as him? Not better, but as good as him. So I was blessed with a very decent director. He's really cool, and that made it work. So I have quite a few stories. As of today, currently we use the phrase, the system is not working. Me and Carolyn, that is our line. The system's not working. That was his favorite thing. Anything that went wrong in DCM, the system is not working. I'll be like, okay, so how do we get the system working? But that's our favorite line. Keep hope alive always. When we drink tea, it's two sugars and milk.
Of course.
With the cheese Danish downstairs. A lot of gems. My best story that I tell, so my daughter is 16, and she had to be about 1 or 2. We came to visit, day off, and she had an appointment. I bring her upstairs, because he was the best boss. I had maternity leave for 5 months. I had her during the ALAC year. He said, just another story, he said, you come in, you work for me. I know you just had her. You get us through ALAC. You could stay off as long as you want. We came in. I did what I needed to do. We passed ALAC. I went out. 5 months. What boss does your job? Him and the intern, Naya. And me and Naya is still close. I'm quite close with a couple of interns that came through DCM. Him and Naya did my job. 5 months. I came back to work. But she had to be about 1. I go to the bathroom. He's like, I'll watch her, no problem. Go to the bathroom. I come back. My office is the size of this rug. It's just long. She's out the stroller, not strapped in, giggling. He's rolling on the floor. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And he's like, oh, we're just having fun. I had never seen him outside of the work relationship, and he's always been professional. He's been like dad. And I didn't realize that till I got older, because when y'all got in trouble, I got in trouble. I used to be like, but Ma did it. I'm not one of the kids. He was like, don't worry about it. You're in trouble too. Just take it. And he was rolling on the floor, and I was like, okay. And then I said, you gotta get up, because people are gonna think, his shirt was all dusty from the floor. Fine. Me and Jose got in tons of trouble, because we were young. We would chit chat. We get our work done, but then we'll be, like he said, conjugating, talking, having fun. And then as we got older, we started getting more involved in the field, because now it's a career. Being a ICOOK administrator, ICOOK coordinator, it's a career now. You take exams. So it's evolved from what was a administrative assistant. And it used to be funny, because every day I would have to sit next to him, and he would pull out the notebook for the things to do, and I would be like, we don't have to do this every day. And he was like, no, just sit down. We need to do this every day. So I say that to say, I'm not sad, because he left a profound memory on me. That impression is no longer here, but he's always here. Like I told Maha, when I wasn't in touch, I was praying for him, stronger than anybody I know. And I would send the occasional email, and I would send the occasional beat. I would be mad if they had lunch and I couldn't make it because of work obligations. I remember a couple of times I told my new director, I said, look, Dr. Osman is at Coogan's. I got to leave this meeting, because if you guys could take the time to bring him so that we could all gather, then I'm going to do what I got to do to get there. I was supposed to be away this weekend, and it didn't work out. And as soon as I found out, I texted you. I was like, okay, this is right. I got to go. Getting here, I had so much anxiety, and it was like he said, take your time. get there. I pulled up with no problem, everything. I just have to say, I loved him like a father. I love you guys. When I was talking to Maha, I was like, just the fact that you called me personally, I was just expecting to see you today. Said to me, because when you're grieving, your mom is not who I need to call and reach out to. You delegating. She called me. And all I could say is, how's your mom? How's your brother? You know, how's such and such? And then I was like, I didn't have, when Harry emailed me, you emailed me from your Columbia email, I was so happy because I misplaced the Gmail. So I was like, good, now I can keep in touch with Harry. I grew up under Harry, Richie. You know, I grew up in front of them because when they came in, I was just a little girl doing the work. Now I'm a grown woman with a child. It's like, oh, this is what Jada's doing, and this is what Jada's doing, this is what Jada's doing. So I say that to say, I had to get here. I love you guys.
We love you too.
I love him.
Thank you.
The hope is alive. The system's not working. It will never be forgotten, believe me, because
The ALAC here is the accreditation year. We get accreditation like this.
so thank you for inviting me. So many times y'all invited me, but you know, when you're young, running the streets, you know, I get here. So today I had to get here. I had to get here.
Thank you.
So thank y'all.
I'd like to say no problem. That was Mo's refrain. No problem. I met Mo in, I guess Susan, we came in '84 to Psych Institute, '82, whatever it was. I met Mo then, and it was a sea change for me. We'd been working at Montefiore for 15 years before that, and dealing with the vet and the administration there. And when we came to Psych Institute, it was like, wait, the vet can be helpful? The vet can try to help you get the work done that you want to get done instead of explaining to you why you can't do it. It was like, but with Mo, it was no problem. I'm not going to tell a lot of stories. I do want to tell one story, and that is that I was the head of the IACUC for many, many years, and so I dealt with inspectors and various other people. And one of the things that happened was that there would be some sort of issue, maybe, never anything terribly serious, but there maybe didn't like the way the cages were set up or something, just something like that. And I'd say, well, are you going to write this up? And they'd say, no, Osman's in charge, he'll take care of it. Mm-hmm. And that was just, people knew him, they trusted him, and they said, no, we don't have to do anything, Mo will take care of it. We'll explain it to him, he'll take care of it. And the last thing I want to say is that, my whole family and I, but speaking for myself, I just feel lucky to have had this time with him. I'm sorry he's dead. I'm sorry he had a stroke. I'm sorry of all those things, but I treasure all the time that we had.
I was lucky to have you.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Harry.
See, very lucky to have you.
You were amazing.
I mean, every month taking him out. You really have to bend the whole lot. You're gonna get back pain from this guy.
They used to call us Mutt and Jeff.
I mean, every month you make sure that he goes out to lunch.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it, but it was Mo. It was Mo, and it was you, and the love that you showed that made us do what we did.
He looked forward to it. It really was.
He really,
He was happy time.
Thank you very much.
My name's Nick. I went to high school with Mo. I actually didn't meet Mo until probably high school, but I moved to New Jersey, for high school. So Mo and I didn't really become super close until college, and so I didn't really meet Muhammad until that point. And so I don't have probably as many memories as a lot of the people in this room, but you meet a lot, we all meet a lot of people, and there's like, we all have energy, right? You're around a person and like, you can feel their energy. And Muhammad's energy was just so palpable and so positive, and everything that everyone was talking about today. So kind, his eyes, his stories, his energy, right? And speaking of teaching, he taught me how to cook okra. I'd never eaten okra. I was over his place and he was like, "Oh, let me show you how to do this." And he taught me how to teach okra. Now I've never cooked okra since then, but I could if I wanted to, because he taught me. And really the only thing I wanted to say was that beauty of his spirit and his energy. It was so clear. I mean, I've loved sitting here today and getting to hear all of these stories from everybody else, because it's no doubt, it's not a surprise, right, that he had this kind of impact on people. And I do want to say and echo what Vanessa was saying about the dedication of his family to him. So beautiful. And I said this to both of you last week. His kindness, all of it, is in you. And you see it. And so it doesn't die. It's still there. And it's just a beautiful thing. I love you guys. You too, man.
Thank you.
I grew up a block away from this Mo. I actually know Muhammad as Mr. Osman. He was never Mo to me. This was Mo. My memories of Muhammad were when I was really young. So it's really selfish, and parents, for the most part, were kind of the headless Charlie Brown parents that just talked and existed around us. But Muhammad was always kind of my surrogate father. He was there. He was the soccer dad for all of us. He was our soccer dad. He was at every game. He didn't just treat Mo like a son. He treated all of us like we were all his children. I mean, I remember he would reserve jerseys for us if we wanted a certain number. He would, he would come and talk to me after games where I thought I played terrible, and probably did play terrible, and boost my self-esteem. And I truly don't think I can even remember a single moment where he was ever mean, cruel, or angry. I don't even remember seeing Muhammad get angry once in my entire life. And all those years I used to come sleep over. I mean, he was the first person that gave me a breakfast donut. It was mind-blowing to me that you could have donuts for breakfast. And I mean, I guess one story Mo and I were talking about when he called me the other day was, and it's a little bit of a gross story, but I remember coming back, him and my mom would drive us to and from all of our sport events, our soccer events, and we were coming back, all of us, I want to say 6 of us in the back of his Camry, all stinky from our game. We had just stopped some fast food, I want to say with Burger King or something. We were all hopped up on soda and hamburgers or whatever, and we were horse playing in the back, and I want to say Ross Gold or somebody elbowed me in the stomach, and I threw up everywhere, all over the back of his car. And that started a process of everybody else in the car also throwing up. So I remember this, and we were reminiscing, because you know how stories kind of get shifted from your childhood. And Mo reminded me that afterwards, Robbie Kalakuti had gotten out of the car as well and thrown up, and there was just all this multicolored soda throw up everywhere. And the car was full of it, and Muhammad's reaction was not what you would expect. The average person would be like, what the heck? His response was, are you guys all right? Yeah. There was a little bit of, what the heck? But his first reaction was really to see if all of us kids were doing all right. And that's truly how I remember him. I remember him being just always there, to the point where you almost, as a kid especially, you take it for granted. He was there. It wasn't this figure that I was conscious of always, because he was just there, and he's just truly a great man. And you can see the evidence in his kids. Mustafa is the one friend of mine. Sorry, other friends of mine. But he's truly always been there for me. It's the one thing, I usually shy away from coming to things like this because it's tough. And my way is to kind of separate from it. But when I heard about this, there was not a moment in my mind that I was like, I'm not coming to this. Muhammad would do anything for me. Mustafa learned that, and Mustafa is that person now. And it's beautiful, and it's something that I truly am grateful having had him in my life. I love you guys. He was a dad to me. He always was.
There was two.
I know. Everybody always thought I was Mustafa instead.
They looked alike when they were young. They had the same skin color.
Yeah.
Let me say one more thing.
Oh, what's that?
You have to say that your mom and dad are just devastated not to be here.
They are.
I've
They
talked to
just
Valerie,
moved,
and
yeah.
Valerie and I are close, and I don't
And
know
I
how
think
many
they're watching.
times.
They should be watching right
she
now,
said-
but yeah, they literally just moved. They would have been here if they were in the other coast.
I love you guys so much. Really.
We love you. I mean, how many games all over the country here? How many hotels?
Really.
How many?
As long as I was able to. But what struck me today is when you said before you left Egypt that he wanted to change the world. That's what he wanted to do. And I can't help but observe how he has changed the world and with his love and his kindness and his goodwill. And sometimes when we think about important people in our lives, and sometimes like they're there for part of our life and then we move on to other chapters in our life, we make this, it's kind of like this one little thing I have in my head, that we make a quilt and that every square is so important. And so it's really a privilege to see what a beautiful quilt he has made and how he has really,
nice.
So I think in gratitude to Dr. Oz, thank you for changing the world and reaching out to all of us.
Thank you.
There's just one story about to tell about Terry.
Oh God.
He went to rehab. I don't know if any of you went to outpatient rehab. You can't get an appointment. I'm not gonna even, I waited for a month to really get an appointment for myself. And if you're late twice, they discharge you if you don't show up twice, and it's a whole big thing. Now my husband goes to this rehab here, which we don't know nothing about. It's an outpatient rehab. They fell in love with him. Now, if the weather was bad, or he had a doctor appointment, he couldn't make it for his appointment, what happened? The therapist comes home after hours. She comes home, so he doesn't miss it. They don't do that.
Yeah.
No, I can tell you, there is no an outpatient rehab therapy that will make home visit. But she made the exception. She knows how much he was motivated to get better. She didn't want him to miss his session. She came on weekends and he couldn't go. She came after they closed the center. She came give him his session here. And this is you can't find that. I can't even say it's rare. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. But this is the people that helped him for 15 years.
Yeah.
He was able to walk with a quad cane, hemiplegic, half paralyzed, and he couldn't speak. The whole side was paralyzed. He was able to walk with a quad cane around the house. And that's because of these wonderful people. And we owe it to you. And thank you, Debbie. Thank you for coming for your home
I'll share it
visit.
with Mark, he deserves it.
Thank you again.
And both of you. But you made the house cold, and nobody else does.
I think it's because I went to Columbia for grad school.
Part of the network. In network.
That's why you like